In the shattered remnants of what was once a thriving metropolis, the air hung heavy with the stench of decay and the echoes of chaos. The city, now a dystopian sprawl of crumbling skyscrapers and overturned vehicles, had become a battleground for an unholy war. On one side were the zombie monkeys, nimble, ferocious creatures with matted fur and glowing, vacant eyes. On the other were the zombie humans, lumbering, groaning husks of what once were people, their flesh rotting and their hunger insatiable. This was no longer a world of the living. It was a realm where the undead clashed in a grotesque struggle for dominance. The outbreak had begun years ago, a failed experiment in a hidden lab beneath the city. Scientists at XAI, a company once heralded for its advancements, had been working on a neural enhancement serum, testing it on both primates and human volunteers. The goal was to unlock the full potential of the mind, but something went horribly wrong. The serum didn't enhance, it corrupted. Within days, the test subjects turned, their bodies decaying while their primal instincts sharpened. The monkeys escaped first, scaling the lab's ventilation shafts and spilling into the streets. The humans followed, breaking through security in a mindless stampede. The infection spread like wildfire, and soon the city was lost. Now, in the shadow of a toppled statue that once depicted a proud mayor, the two factions met. The zombie monkeys perched atop rusted cars and swung from broken streetlights, their shrieks piercing the stillness. Their leader, a hulking silverback with half its face torn away, bared its jagged teeth in a guttural roar. Across the debris-strewn boulevard, the zombie humans shuffled forward, a mass of tattered clothing and oozing wounds. At their forefront staggered a figure in a shredded lab coat, its name tag reading Dr. Ellis, a remnant of the scientist who had unwittingly unleashed this nightmare. The battle erupted with a ferocity that shook the ruins. A pack of zombie monkeys leapt from a shattered storefront, their claws raking at the human's decaying flesh. One latched onto a human's shoulder, tearing into its neck with rabid fervor. The human groaned, swinging a clumsy arm that sent the monkey crashing into a pile of rubble. Another monkey, its tail missing and its ribs exposed, vaulted onto a human's back, sinking its teeth into the base of its skull. The human flailed, collapsing under the weight as black blood oozed from the wound. The humans fought back with brute force, a towering figure, once a construction worker, judging by its faded orange vest, seized a monkey mid-leap and slammed it into the pavement. The monkey's brittle bones cracked, but it writhed and snapped its jaws, refusing to die a second time. Nearby, a human with a missing arm swung a rusted pipe, smashing a monkey's head into a pulp of fur and gore. The humans lacked the agility of their simian foes, but their sheer numbers and relentless drive kept them in the fight. The silverback leader charged into the fray, its massive fists pounding the ground as it barreled toward Dr. Ellis. The zombie scientist turned, its milky eyes locking onto the beast. With a guttural moan, it raised a trembling hand, as if remembering some fragment of its past life. The silverback didn't hesitate. It leapt, tackling Dr. Ellis and sending them both crashing through the remains of a bus stop. Glass shattered, and the two rolled in a tangle of limbs and snarls. The monkey's claws tore into the human's chest, ripping through the lab coat, while Dr. Ellis's bony fingers gouged at the silverback's rotting face. Around them, the battle raged on. A group of monkeys scaled a leaning telephone pole, using it as a vantage point to rain down on the humans below. One leapt onto a human's shoulders, wrapping its legs around its neck and twisting until the spine snapped. Another human, its lower jaw hanging by a thread, grabbed a monkey by the tail and hurled it into a brick wall where it splattered in a mess of fur and ichor. The air was thick with the sounds of ripping flesh, snapping bones, and the unearthly cries of the undead. The city itself seemed to join the chaos. A gas main, ruptured long ago, ignited in a sudden explosion, engulfing a cluster of fighters in flames. Monkeys screeched as their fur burned, leaping wildly through the blaze, while humans stumbled forward, their clothes smouldering but their advance unbroken. A collapsing building sent a cascade of concrete and steel onto the battlefield, crushing a dozen combatants in an instant. Yet the survivors fought on, driven by a hunger that transcended pain or reason. In the heart of the melee, the Silverback and Dr. Ellis remained locked in their duel. The monkey's strength was waning, its left arm hung uselessly, shredded by the scientist's relentless clawing. Dr. Ellis, though battered, pressed its attack, slamming the Silverback's head against a jagged slab of asphalt. The monkey roared, its remaining eye flaring with feral rage, and with a final surge of power, it drove its claws deep into Dr. Ellis's chest. The scientist let out a rattling gasp, its body going limp as the Silverback tore free a chunk of decayed flesh. For a moment, the battlefield stilled. The monkeys chattered triumphantly as their leader rose, holding Dr. Ellis's remains aloft. The humans, leaderless, faltered, their groans growing disjointed. But the victory was fleeting. A horde of human reinforcements shambled from a side street, drawn by the noise. Freshly turned, their bodies less decayed, they moved with a terrifying purpose. The monkeys screeched, rallying around the Silverback as the new wave crashed into them. Hours bled into days, and the war showed no sign of ending. The city became a graveyard of shattered bones and scattered limbs, a testament to the unrelenting fury of its undead inhabitants. The zombie monkeys, with their speed and cunning, claimed the high ground, turning rooftops into fortresses of fur and fang. The zombie humans dominated the streets, their numbers swelling with each fallen monkey they consumed and turned. Neither side could truly win, for death had already claimed them all. In the distance, a faint hum broke the cacophony, a helicopter, its blades slicing through the haze. Survivors, perhaps, or scavengers drawn to the ruins. They would find no refuge here, only a city consumed by its own monstrous creations. The zombie monkeys and humans paid no heed, locked in their eternal struggle, oblivious to the world beyond their decayed domain. The dystopia endured, a twisted symphony of snarls and moans, where the line between beast and man had long since dissolved into the rot. The winter of 1944, Siberia was a frozen hell, a place where the wind carried the kind of cold that could kill a man faster than a bullet. The war had stretched its claws into every corner of the globe, but nobody expected it to reach this far north, this far into the wasteland. The American 32nd Infantry Division, a battle-hardened outfit fresh from the Pacific, had been airdropped into the Tiger on a mission so classified even their CO, Colonel Amos Reed, didn't know the full scope. All they knew was the order: secure a remote Soviet research outpost, codenamed Voron's Nest, and destroy whatever they found. Private Tommy Callahan, a wiry kid from Brooklyn with a mouth too big for his own good, trudged through knee-deep snow, his M1 Garand slung over his shoulder. "This is bullshit," he muttered, breath fogging in the air. "Krauts are getting their asses kicked in Berlin. Why the hell we chasing ghosts in Siberia?" "Shut it, Callahan," growled Sergeant Malone, a grizzled vet who'd seen too many kids like Tommy die. "You'll know when you need to know. Keep moving." The outpost came into view at dusk, a squat concrete bunker half buried in snow, surrounded by barbed wire and abandoned Soviet trucks. The place looked dead, but something about it made the hairs on Tommy's neck stand up. The wind carried a faint guttural moan like a wounded animal, but there was nothing alive out here, or so they thought. Inside, the bunker was a slaughterhouse. Blood smeared the walls, frozen in crimson streaks. Soviet scientists in white coats lay torn apart, their faces locked in screams. Malone's flashlight swept over a steel door at the far end, marked with a swastika and runes Tommy didn't recognize. "What the hell's that?" he whispered. "Trouble," Malone said, gripping his Thompson tighter. Before anyone could stop him, Private Diaz, the squad's demo man, cracked the door open. A blast of frigid air hit them, carrying a stench like rotting meat and gunpowder. Beyond the door was a lab, vials of glowing green liquid, surgical tables, and a dozen metal coffins wired to generators. One of them was open, empty. "Fall back," Malone barked, but it was too late. The first one came from the shadows, a skeletal figure in a tattered SS uniform, its eyes glowing the same sickly green as the vials. Its jaw hung slack, teeth jagged, and it moved fast. Too fast for something that looked dead. It lunged at Diaz, tearing into his throat before he could scream. Gunfire erupted, the squad unloading everything they had. Bullets ripped through the thing, but it kept coming, clawing and snarling, until Malone put a .45 slug through its skull. It dropped, twitching, then went still. "Jesus Christ," Tommy gasped, hands shaking. "What was that?" "Kraut science," Malone spat. "They've been playing with shit they shouldn't." More moans echoed from the lab. The other coffins were opening. The squad barely made it out of the bunker, dragging Diaz's body as the Nazi zombies, rotting SS officers reanimated by some unholy serum, poured after them. The things didn't feel pain, didn't tire, and didn't die easy. Headshots worked, but you had to be precise, and in the dark, with snow blinding them, that was a tall order. Colonel Reed rallied the men outside, setting up a perimeter around the bunker. "We hold here," he roared. "Whatever those things are, they don't leave this valley." The night became a nightmare of blood and fire. The zombies attacked in waves, some crawling through the snow, others sprinting like wolves. Tommy saw one in an officer's coat, its face half gone, barking orders in guttural German as it swung a rusted Luger. The Americans fought back with rifles, grenades, and flamethrowers, the latter turning the creatures into shrieking torches that kept staggering forward until they collapsed. By dawn, the squad was down to half its strength. Tommy, Malone, and a handful of others held the line at a frozen riverbank, ammo running low. The zombies kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. Reed, bleeding from a gash on his arm, made the call. "We blow the bunker. Diaz's charges are still in there. We end this now." Getting back inside was suicide, but Malone volunteered, dragging Tommy with him. "You're fast, kid. Keep up." They fought their way through, Tommy's heart pounding as he blasted a zombie's head off point blank. Malone set the charges, while Tommy covered him, the moans growing louder as more of the things closed in. They didn't make it out. The explosion shook the valley, a fireball swallowing the bunker and every zombie inside. The shockwave knocked Reed and the survivors flat, but when the smoke cleared, the moans were gone. The outpost was a crater, the threat buried under tons of ice and stone. Reed stood, staring at the wreckage. Malone, Callahan, damn fine soldiers. The official report called it a gas leak, a tragic accident. The 32nd was shipped back to the Pacific, and Voron's nest was erased from the maps. But the survivors never forgot the cold, or the glowing eyes, or the truth about what the Nazis had unleashed in that frozen wasteland. And sometimes, in the dead of night, they swore they could still hear the moans on the wind. Forest had grown unnaturally quiet over the past few weeks. No birds sang, no deer rustled through the underbrush, and even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The only sound was a faint, relentless clicking, a chorus of tiny mandibles gnashing in unison. It started with the ants, not the kind that marched in orderly lines toward picnic crumbs, but something far worse. Cordyceps, they called it once, a fungal parasite that hijacked ants' bodies, turning them into mindless husks, driven to spread its spores. But this wasn't the cordyceps of old textbooks. This was something new, something mutated, something that didn't stop at ants. The first signs appeared in the outskirts of the abandoned town of Holleridge. A hiker's grainy video showed a swarm of ants, thousands strong, crawling over a dead raccoon. Their bodies twitched unnaturally, legs jerking as if pulled by invisible strings. White tendrils of fungus sprouted from their heads, swaying like antennae. The raccoon's corpse shuddered, then moved, not alive, but animated, its flesh peeling away as the ants burrowed deeper, eating and puppeteering at once. The video cut off with the hiker's scream. By the time the authorities arrived, Holleridge was a ghost town. The ants had spread, and they weren't just eating insects anymore. The mutation had jumped species barriers, adapting with terrifying speed. Dogs, cats, foxes, anything with a pulse became prey. The fungus didn't just kill, it enslaved. Victims didn't stay dead. They staggered through the woods, flesh rotting, driven by the ants that crawled beneath their skin. Deep in the forest, a lone stag stood as the last sentinel of a dying ecosystem. Its antlers gleamed in the dim light filtering through the skeletal trees, its breath fogging in the chill air. It had evaded the swarms for weeks, its instincts honed by a world gone mad. But the ants were patient. They didn't chase. They waited. It began with a single ant, its body glistening with fungal threads, scuttling up the stag's leg. The deer flinched, stomping the ground, but the ant clung tight, mandibles sinking into flesh. Then came another, and another. A black tide surged from the leaf litter, a writhing carpet of clicking, twitching bodies. The stag bolted, crashing through brambles, but the ants were already inside, crawling under its hide, burrowing into muscle. The fungus spread fast, threading through veins, hijacking nerves. The stag stumbled, legs buckling as the ants took control. Its eyes, once wide with panic, dulled to a milky haze. A low, guttural moan escaped its throat, not its own voice, but the sound of the colony within. The swarm converged, thousands of tiny jaws tearing into its flanks. Blood pooled on the forest floor, soaking into the soil as the ants feasted. Chunks of flesh sloughed off, revealing bone, yet the stag's body twitched and lurched, forced upright by the fungal puppet masters. The ants didn't just eat, they hollowed it out, leaving a shambling shell to carry their spores deeper into the wild. By nightfall, the forest was silent again, save for the clicking. The stag thing staggered onward, its antlers now crowned with fungal blooms, a grotesque monument to the new order. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, unaware it was next.